I'm Beverly. Standing in front of my parents, now in handcuffs, I'm filled with a mix of anger and disappointment. The once happy family reunion atmosphere has turned into a nightmare. The laughter has died, and all that's left is tension and regret. It all started when I got a text at 2 a.m. While I was on an assignment in Seattle. My mom, Helen, sent a message saying, "Finally did something about that house of yours. You're welcome." I stared at the message in the darkness of my hotel room. The house she was talking about was the one I'd bought 2 years ago in Alexandria. It was a beautiful 3-bedroom colonial, strategically chosen because it was only 15 minutes from the federal courthouse and 20 minutes from my office at the U.S. Marshals Service headquarters. I immediately texted back, asking what she meant. She replied that they'd sold it. "You're always traveling for your job, and the money will help your sister, Lily, with her wedding," she said. I sat up so quickly that I nearly dropped my phone. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "You sold my house?" I asked. She brushed it off, saying they had the power of attorney from when I was overseas. They'd used it, and the house was just sitting empty. They'd gotten $850,000 in cash and split it with Lily for her wedding expenses. My hands were shaking. That power of attorney was from 6 years ago when I was deployed to Iraq before joining the Marshals Service. I'd forgotten to revoke it when I returned to the States. I pleaded with my mom to stop the sale immediately, but she said it was done. The deal had closed the day before, and she told me to stop being selfish. I knew I had to act fast. I called my supervisor, Deputy Chief Marshal Robert Thompson. He answered on the third ring, his voice rough with sleep. "Thompson, this is the middle of the night," he grumbled. I told him my family had sold my house in Alexandria. There was a long pause on the line. "Your house, the safe house?" he asked. I confirmed that it was the one we'd been using for witness protection in the Rossi organized crime case. He asked how long ago the sale had closed. I told him it was the day before, and I'd just found out. He then asked who was in the house. According to the last report from the protection detail, it was Maria Rossi and her 2 children. They were supposed to stay there for another 3 weeks before relocation. Thompson told me to get back to D.C. immediately. He was activating the emergency response team. I caught the first flight out of Seattle. By the time I landed at Reagan National, it was 10 a.m. And my phone was bombarded with 17 messages from my mom. All of them were variations of "Why are you being so dramatic? You're ruining Lily's wedding." I ignored them and drove straight to my office at the U.S. Marshals Service headquarters in Arlington. Thompson was waiting in the secure conference room with 3 other senior marshals and our legal counsel, Laura Davis. He gestured for me to sit and told me to explain everything. I told them about the power of attorney, my parents' access to it, and the unauthorized sale of the house. As I spoke, I could see their expressions change from concern to fury. Laura Davis, the legal counsel, spoke slowly. "Let me make sure I understand. Your parents sold a property that's been registered as a federal safe house for the past 18 months, a property currently housing a protected witness and her family in the Rossi organized crime case, and they did this without notifying anyone." I confirmed it was true. We still didn't know who had bought the house. My mom had mentioned the $850,000 cash, which was significantly below the market value of at least $2.8 million. Thompson's jaw tightened. He said it was either incompetence or something worse. Laura pulled up the property records on her laptop. The sale had gone through a company called Ocean View Holdings, LLC. She quickly typed and found out that Ocean View Holdings was a shell company registered in Delaware, with the owners concealed through multiple layers. She said it wasn't a normal real estate transaction. I realized that someone had targeted that specific property. Laura said someone had paid cash below market value for a house that was sheltering a witness against the Rossi crime family. It couldn't be a coincidence. Thompson stood up abruptly. He said we needed to move the Rossis immediately. He told me to come with him and instructed Laura to start an investigation into Ocean View Holdings. We arrived at the Alexandria house with a full tactical team. The protection detail, Marshals Johnson and Miller, met us at the door, looking confused. "Sir, what's going on?" "We weren't notified of any schedule changes," Johnson asked. Thompson told them the house had been sold without authorization, and we were evacuating the witnesses. We entered the house. Maria Rossi was sitting at the kitchen table with her 9-year-old daughter and 7-year-old son. Her face went pale when she saw the number of marshals. "What happened? Did they find us?" she asked. Thompson assured her it was just a precaution and that they had 10 minutes to pack essentials. Marshal Johnson would help them. As Johnson helped Maria gather their belongings, Thompson turned to me and asked where my parents were. I told him they were at a family reunion at my uncle's farm in Pennsylvania. He said we were going there right away and that I should bring a recorder to document everything they said. We drove to Pennsylvania in a convoy of 3 unmarked vehicles. When we arrived at my uncle's farm, it was late afternoon, and the reunion was in full swing. Cars lined the long driveway, children were playing in the yard, and the smell of barbecue drifted from the back patio. My mom was standing near the grill, laughing with my aunts. She spotted me and waved enthusiastically at first, but then she saw the people with me, all in suits and wearing badges. Her smile faltered. "Beverly, what's going on?" she asked. I walked across the lawn with Thompson beside me. My dad, Henry, emerged from the house with a beer in his hand. Lily appeared from around the corner, her fiancé following behind her. I carefully said, "Mommy, Dad, we need to talk about the house." My mom scoffed. "Oh, for heaven's sake, are you still upset about that?" "Beverly, we did you a favor." I interrupted her. That house was a federal safe house. It was being used by the U.S. Marshal Service to protect a witness and her children in an active organized crime investigation. The laughter stopped, and my mom's face went white. "What?" she exclaimed. I explained that the house in Alexandria, the one they'd sold without my permission, wasn't just my house. It was registered as federal property for witness protection. My dad set down his beer slowly and said it was impossible because he thought I worked in office administration. I told him I'd been a deputy U.S. Marshal for 4 years and that the house had been carefully chosen for its location and security features and had been sheltering a protected witness for 18 months. Thompson stepped forward, holding up his badge. Deputy Chief Marshal Robert Thompson. Mr. and Mrs. Hill, you've sold federal property without authorization. More critically, you've potentially compromised an active witness protection case. My mom grabbed my dad's arm. "We didn't know. Beverly, you never told us." I told her I couldn't tell her because of operational security. But they should have asked me before selling my property. They argued that they had the power of attorney, but I reminded them that it was for emergencies during my military deployment 6 years ago and was never meant to give them the authority to sell my house. Lily pushed forward. "Beverly, Mom and Dad were just trying to help. They got me $400,000 for my wedding. Surely you can't be upset about that." I flatly told her that the wedding money came from an illegal sale of federal property and that it would be seized as proceeds from a crime. My dad's voice got loud. "Now wait just a minute. We didn't commit any crime. You're always traveling, never around for family. What were we supposed to think?" I told him they were supposed to think that selling someone else's property without permission was illegal, and it was even worse because it was federal property. Laura stepped forward. "Mr. and Mrs. Hill, I'm with the legal counsel's office for the U.S. Marshal Service. The house you sold was legally owned by your daughter but registered as federal property for witness protection purposes. The sale of that property without authorization violates 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, tampering with a witness. Additionally, because the sale was conducted using fraudulent authority. My mom cried, saying they weren't being fraudulent and that they had the power of attorney. Laura continued, and the fact that you sold it significantly below market value to a shell company raises additional questions. My dad frowned and said they'd sold it to a nice couple through a real estate agent who paid $850,000 in cash. I told them the buyers had used a shell company called Ocean View Holdings. I asked if they knew who they actually were. They said the agent had told them they were investors who wanted it as a rental property. I asked if an $850,000 cash purchase for a house worth $2.8 million didn't seem suspicious. My mom got shrill and said they weren't real estate experts and that the agent had said it was a fair price for a quick cash sale. Thompson's phone buzzed. He checked it and his expression darkened. He pulled me aside and showed me a photo on his phone. One man I didn't recognize, but the other was Tony Rossi Jr. The son of the mob boss Maria Rossi was testifying against. Thompson said Ocean View Holdings was a shell company owned by the Rossi family. They'd bought my house, and they knew it was a safe house. My blood went cold. I asked how they knew. Thompson said they were still investigating, but they'd paid cash below market value to make it an attractive quick sale. My parents' greed had made them easy targets. I turned back to my family. They were all standing there, looking confused and scared. I asked who had approached them about selling the house. My mom said it was a real estate agent named Lisa something. She'd said she had buyers ready. I asked how she knew they had access to the house. My mom said the agent had called and said she'd heard they had property in Alexandria they might want to sell. When I asked how she'd heard that, my mom and dad exchanged glances. My mom said she might have mentioned it at the country club when she was talking about Lily's wedding expenses, and someone had suggested they liquidate their assets. Thompson closed his eyes briefly. Mrs. Hill, you discussed your daughter's federal property at a country club. In front of how many people? My mom said she didn't know, that it was just a conversation with friends. Thompson explained that those friends had told someone, who'd told the Rossis, and the Rossis had sent a fake agent to convince them to sell the safe house. My dad's face went gray. You're saying we helped the mob? Laura said, unknowingly, but yes. You sold them direct access to a protected witness. Lily grabbed my arm. Beverly, we didn't know. You have to believe us. We would never. I pulled away. You would never ask before making major decisions about my property. You would never respect my privacy. You would never consider that my work might be more important than you assumed. Lily said it wasn't fair. I retorted, isn't it? You took my wedding money, $400,000 from the sale. For what? A bigger venue? A fancier dress? Lily's face flushed. Mom and Dad offered. They said you owed us. You're never around, never involved in family stuff. They said this was your contribution. I told her my contribution was buying a house that had saved 3 lives. Maria Rossi and her children were alive because they'd been in that safe house instead of their apartment when the Rossis had sent men to kill them. Just then, Thompson's phone buzzed again. He answered, spoke briefly, and then ended the call. The Rossis are secure in a new location. The house in Alexandria is being swept for surveillance devices. And we have a warrant, he said. He nodded to the tactical agents, and 2 of them approached my parents. Mr. and Mrs. Hill, we have a warrant to seize all proceeds from the sale of the Alexandria property. That includes bank accounts, cash, and any assets purchased with those funds, one of the agents said. My mom stumbled backward. Seize? You can't. That's our money. Laura said it was proceeds from the illegal sale of federal property. Additionally, they were both being charged with 18 U.S.C. Section 1512, witness tampering, and 18 U.S.C. Section 641, theft of government property. My dad turned to me, his face desperate. Beverly, stop this. Tell them it was a misunderstanding. Tell them we didn't mean any harm. I looked at him for a long moment. Dad, you sold a safe house to the mob. Whether you meant harm or not, you endangered 3 lives. I can't stop this. I wouldn't stop this if I could. My parents were taken into custody that evening. Lily's bank accounts were frozen, and her fiancé left 2 days later, saying he needed time to think. The investigation into Ocean View Holdings led to the arrest of 3 Rossi associates and exposed a network of corrupt real estate agents used to track federal properties. The mob had been systematically trying to identify safe houses across the eastern seaboard. My parents faced trial 6 months later. They were convicted of witness tampering and theft of government property. Dad got 4 years in federal prison, and Mom got 3 years plus 2 years of supervised release. The judge was clear that ignorance wasn't an excuse when their actions nearly cost 3 lives. Lily lost everything: her wedding fund, her venue deposit, her fiancé, and her reputation. She moved to California to live with our aunt. I visited my parents once before they went to prison. They were sitting across from me in the federal holding facility, wearing orange jumpsuits and looking a decade older. My mom whispered, "Beverly, please. Can't you do something? Talk to someone? Your father's health." I told her I was a deputy marshal and couldn't interfere with a federal prosecution. She said, "But we're family." I replied, "Family respects boundaries. Family asks permission. Family doesn't sell each other's houses to mobsters." My dad's hands shook on the table. "We didn't know they were mobsters. We didn't know it was a safe house. We didn't know any of it because you never told us what you really do." I told him I couldn't tell them, and clearly, I'd been right not to trust them with sensitive information. 2 years later, I received a letter from my mom. She'd been transferred to a minimum security facility in Nevada. The letter was full of apologies, explanations, and justifications. She missed me and wanted to make things right. I read it once and then filed it with the case documents. Deputy Chief Marshal Thompson found me in my office later that day. "Heard your mother reached out. She wants reconciliation. You going to give it to her?" I thought about Maria Rossi and her children, who'd sent me a Christmas card with a photo of them smiling. They were alive and safe because I'd moved them in time. "No," I said. "I'm not." Thompson nodded slowly. "Family's important, Beverly. So is doing your job right, protecting people who can't protect themselves, and maintaining boundaries with people who've proven they can't be trusted." I agreed. My parents were released from federal prison 18 months ago. Mom served her full sentence, and Dad got out 2 months early for good behavior. They moved to Arizona, away from the judgmental whispers of their Pennsylvania community. They've written to me periodically, asking for a chance to talk, explain, and rebuild. I haven't responded to any of them. Maybe someday I will, but not today. Today, I have a job to do protecting witnesses and upholding the law. Maria Rossi's children are alive, and that matters more than my parents' feelings. It always will.